Man, I wanted one of these guitars ever since they were introduced all the way back in 2014. After a long wait, almost 10 years later, I got what is considered to be one of the prettiest looking Gibson Explorers. The Lzzy Hale White Explorer. It is an early 2014 model and I'm gonna demonstrate it for you guys. Just look at that thing. And here it is, the Lzzy Hale Signature Explorer. Oh man, it's been a long time coming. I wanted this beauty ever since it was first introduced back in 2014. It's almost like one of those long love stories when you like a girl but at first she doesn't know you exist, then she's not available, and finally when you can be together you're with someone else, like a Les Paul Custom for example. But as you know, good things come to those who wait. Probably most of you don't know who Lzzy Hale or Hailstorm are. I didn't, but I'm sure you have seen this guitar somewhere. It is just that unique and unforgettable, and it's part of sort of a holy trinity for me. The trinity consists of the Hale Explorer, this one, the white one, the Thunder Horse that I've already reviewed and I'm gonna link above, and the Golden Axe for Bill Kelleher that I'm gonna show you later in this video. It's been a long wait for me for a couple of reasons. First of all, I wanted to get a good deal. This guitar is expensive. Second of all, I wanted to be in stock condition with the original hardware, original pickups and so on. A lot of people tend to buy this guitar and then modify it because, you see, there's not a white Explorer custom with the binding available. And so was the case with this one actually. It was heavily modified, but fortunately the previous owner kept all the stock hardware and didn't modify the pickups and things that are irreversible. So I reverted it back to stock and here it is. But what exactly is it? You know what? Lzzy knows her guitars, so this time I'm gonna let her explain. Before the final version was introduced, Lzzy was using a prototype made by the custom shop specifically for her. Let's see it.
Hi, by the way, I'm Lzzy Hale from Hailstorm, and the guitar that I have around me right now is my custom Gibson Explorer that the people at Gibson so nicely made up for me. It's a classic Explorer body. Pickups are just standard 500Ts. I had the body double bound and the neck bound. Gold hardware. They did this really nice thing for me, actually. I didn't know that these existed, but they had the golden and pearl knobs. It's very classy. My goal for this guitar, creating this guitar, was, the Explorer is a traditionally very metal guitar, and it's very very jagged and very rock, and I kind of wanted to class it up a bit, and one of the inspirations was the White Falcon. Fender White Falcon, Gretsch, I'm sorry, White Falcon, and it was something that Gibson hadn't really done before, was kind of make the Explorer into a classy biatch, is what I like to call it, actually. So I got my my signature on there, my nameplate, and right now there is only one of these, and which means that I can destroy it in any way I see fit. Which, as of right now, we got a little bit of buckle rash and nothing too crazy, but you never know. Next time you see me, there might be a big gash in the body, but that's the one good thing about Gibsons. The more screwed up that they are, the better they look. So
That's her custom shop prototype that she demonstrated in a couple of videos in 2013.
I'm Lzzy Hale from Hailstorm, and right now you're in my home studio in Nashville, Tennessee.
This is my signature Explorer. Looks awesome. Gold hardware. I have a bound neck, double bound body, which really was inspired by just the Les Paul look and just the chunkiness of it. Even though I'm in a hard rock band and room with a bunch of smelly boys 24/7, I'm still a girl, and so it's got to be classy. This is my signature Gibson Explorer, and this is the one that you'll see out in stores, although mine is a lot yellower.
This rig rundown was recorded in early 2015, and as far as I know is the first time Lzzy is showing up her final version of the Lzzy Hale Explorer available to purchase. It's no longer made by the Gibson custom shop, doesn't have the double bound body, doesn't have binding on the headstock, and it has the gold speed knobs. They got rid of the 500T pickups, which are a bit harsh in my opinion, and instead went with the 57 Classic and 57 Classic Plus. As you can see, she kept the gold truss rod cover with her signature, just to make it a bit more unique for herself, I guess. To be honest, I prefer this look. I don't mind that there's no binding on the back of the guitar and the headstock. Let's hear some more from Lzzy explaining about it in 2015.
You know, pretty standard. I wanted to keep the classic metal shape of the Explorer, very James Hetfield. But obviously, I'm a girl, so kind of wanted to class it up a little bit. So I did white and gold aesthetics, and just made it look super, super awesome. I wanted to have a guitar that you could see from the back row,
right.
You know, and really, I mean, the only real differences that I made was I did some binding on the body.
Yeah, I love that. I've never seen an Explorer with...
kind of a tribute to the Les Paul Custom,
right.
You know, because I don't know, it just looks like a great hunko. It looks like a Cadillac, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Come on. And then I have a Classic 57 pickups in here, just to give it that nice bite. It's just awesome. So again, for whatever I need to use it for, I'm using this guitar on this tour for both our crazy rockers and the beautiful ballads. So it's a very versatile guitar.
Yeah, yeah, it's perfect for you. I mean, because it is a unashamedly rock and roll guitar.
So dress in all black, and then everything else is white.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love it's an ebony fingerboard, right, with these big block inlays.
Correct. Yeah. Again, just super meaty, and I don't like to complicate everything up too much. You know, I'm kind of a simple gal. I guess it's because I room with a bunch of boys, and you kind of have to be. But so it's part of my personality now. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those guitars that you just feel like a rock star when you put it on. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. That is, yeah, it's so great, because when I see people putting out like a signature guitar, which is basically just another Les Paul, it's like, why bother?
Yeah, exactly. You have to have a little bit of something. You don't want to screw with the legacy.
Right.
You know, that is Gibson. I mean, the whole reason that we buy them is because that's the way it is. But then you want to have a little bit of something, you know, that makes it your own. But no, don't mess it up. Come on.
And she didn't mess it up. In fact, it's one of the most recognizable signature guitars. Here's a video from 2018 when she introduced the black version of the Lzzy Hale Explorer, and you can see that she's still rocking the custom Explorer that they made for her, the prototype with the double bound body and the bound headstock. Although, one correction, this guitar has ebony fingerboard, the rest that are available for purchase have rosewood. In some interviews they're calling it ebony, in others rosewood. The guitar that Gibson made for her, the prototype, is ebony, the rest are rosewood because it was around 2014 and Gibson were having trouble with the FBI and the supply of ebony. In 2021, Gibson made another signature for her, the red one, but she was still rocking the white Explorer. And in this particular rig rundown from 2021, she's using the stock version that is available for everybody else, not her custom shop. And I think it's the same guitar she was using all the way back in 2014, because look at the gold truss rod cover again, which goes to show that these are amazing guitars and they're durable for touring.
Classic 57s in that guy, and then it's
It's awesome because when they approached me with this, I was a Les Paul girl for a long
Sure.
time. Like my first ever Gibson that I ever saved up and bought was a Les Paul Custom. And so when they approached me with it, I'm like, well, do I do a Les Paul? And then I decided on the Explorer because the great thing about the Explorer is that when you look at it from a distance, you know that like, okay, it's probably not going to be country. It's probably not going to be pop. There's going to be something happening here, you know? And the reason I chose the white and gold aesthetic is because you could see it from the back. And it's just, you know.
And it's never been done.
I'm a classy broad. You gotta,
obviously.
you gotta go with that. It feels like home to me.
Oh,
and it's so incredibly balanced. And for those of you watching that aren't, you know, into the 8-inch heels, it's a really good balancing tool. So like I can do the whole flamingo thing.
Oh,
with this,
perfect! It's very impressive to watch you do pedals on those stilts like that.
Yes.
So how did the whole process go with this? They approached you about it, and you had to just come up with.
I had to come up with something, and to much their chagrin. So for those of you who don't know, to make anything white, you know, in the warehouse, it's actually a difficult process because any kind of dust, anything, they have a whole separate room for the white because anything that kind of like seeps in from the air will get into the lacquer. So at first they were like, "Are you sure you want to do white?" And I thought about it for a second. I'm just like, okay, do I make this easy on everybody, or
do I make it cool?
Or do I just do what I want to do? So they were very willing and lovely to be able to do this for me. And it's been absolutely amazing because we did some custom Gibsons, and then we ended up going through Epiphone to make just kind of a more affordable version.
And so in late 2018, the affordable Epiphone version was introduced. And there are a couple of really cool things about it. Even though it doesn't come with the classic 57 pickups anymore, it does come with an ebony fingerboard. It also has a cool case with the Hailstorm logo on it. Looks similar to the Gibson, I'm sure it sounds similar, and I'm gonna find one to review it eventually. Not gonna discuss the differences too much, I'm just gonna show you the 2019 Epiphone website. Here it is next to the Tommy Tire White Lightning, which is a cool Explorer, pretty similar, and the Matt Heafy Snowfall 7 and 6 strings. Hey, check out some more cool stuff from the same year, the 1958 Amos for Joe Bonamassa in the Richie Faulkner Flying V. Something that I find interesting is that in the same year 2019 that the Lzzy Hale was available, they also made the Kiss signature, the White Explorer. It has a different paint scheme. It is like metallic white with chrome rings and stuff, but they're pretty similar. And I'm assuming it was easier for Epiphone to make both guitars at the same time. You know, same, but different, but still the same. Anyway, let's talk about the Gibson that was introduced in late 2014 and stood beside behemoths like the Jason Hook M4 Sherman. I've already reviewed this one, I'm gonna link it above. And the Bill Kelleher Golden Axe that I'm after. A thing worth noting is that look at the price of the Bill Kelleher Golden Axe, $1,599, where the Lzzy Hale was $2,299, a considerable difference in price. Even though it was marketed as a limited run guitar, the White Explorer was available in the Gibson website all the way to late 2018 when it was replaced by the Dark Explorer. And look at that, same price, $2,299. And here's the custom shop Explorer for $4,199. Here's the official listing for 2014, a stunning Explorer for a very individual artist for $2,299. And here's the official text for it. I'm gonna leave it on screen for a couple of seconds for you to read. And some of the specs, I'm gonna give you a more detailed version in a second. Since this is such a gorgeous guitar, I'm gonna also show you the original photos. As you can see, the body doesn't have binding on the back, only on the front. Here also you can see the gold speed knobs, gold hardware. No binding for the headstock and the white truss rod cover. Rosewood fingerboard, of course. Back of the headstock doesn't have any binding or anything else like that. It shouldn't have. And a gorgeous side view. Here are the specs. Solid mahogany body, 7-ply binding the Explorer shape of the headstock, and gold silkscreen Gibson logo. Lzzy Hale signature truss rod cover, 57 Classic, 57 Classic Plus pickups. A single piece mahogany neck with profile measurement, which is interesting, Gibson doesn't include these specifications anymore. Grover tuners, the electronics, the neck joint with the type of glue and angle. An interesting feature, the locking bridge, which is from a material called Zamac. The white finish, which is hard to make. The rosewood fingerboard, which is a sort of a limitation for 2014 because ebony wasn't available, but it looks good. The case, accessories, a nut, and again hardware. And what's most important, let's hear it.
The most important thing that I was after with this is getting guitars into the hands of little girls or little boys that really want to do that.
Right.
And
I'm the little girl, she's me. You know me, I have to bitch about something, so one thing I don't particularly like is the size of these tuning heads. You know, the previous owner had them swapped with Grovers that bumped into each other, but even the small ones, these buttons, they're hard to rotate. Luckily, I have the best winder available. This is not a commercial, by the way, I just really like it. It's the Music Nomad string winder, and it's smooth. Because you see, even though these are locking tuners and I don't have to wrap the string around them, it still takes a lot of revolutions for the string to tighten, so it's best to have a good winder. Before I start, I'm gonna condition the fingerboard and frets. As you can see, it has been dry for a while, some white spots here and there. I'm gonna use fingerboard F1 oil for it, and then I'm gonna polish the frets using Frine by Music Nomad. And finally, somebody used graphite here for the nut. I'm gonna use Tune It paste. Here's why I don't mind this guitar having rosewood instead of ebony, because Gibson selected the darkest possible rosewood. Here you can see half of the fingerboard has been conditioned and the rest of it still is yet to be conditioned, and you see there's not much of a difference between oiled and unoiled, so it's already a dark board. In fact, I'm not sure I would have liked this guitar with black ebony fingerboard. This dark rosewood looks fantastic with the gold. In fact, looks like the regular ebony used on most guitars after 2019. I'm gonna run through the specs again for those of you who don't like to read. So, starting with the body, we have the 58 Explorer shape, solid mahogany body. One of the big differences between Lzzy's custom shop prototype and this, the body is bound only on the top with 7-ply binding. Gibson pickups, we have 57 Classic and 57 Classic Plus. A single piece mahogany neck with bound rosewood fingerboard. Acrylic inlays, the Explorer headstock, Grover Rotomatic Mini locking tuners, and an interesting and rare spec, locking bridge and a tailpiece. Let's have a peek under the skirt of this beautiful lady, starting with the neck pickup cavity. Clearly visible is the Morris and Tenon neck joint. Also visible is a small maple cap concealing the cavity of the truss rod. I always like to remove the pickups of Alpine White guitars because you can see the Alpine White color that has not been yellowed by the nitro from under the pickup covers and the pickups. You see there's a difference. White, and you have marked Alpine White, and then the guitar is a little bit yellow. Now the bridge pickup cavity has Diezel Lzzy written in it. Diezel probably stands for Explorer, Lzzy, you know, Lzzy. Let me shift the camera around to give you another look of these cavities. You cannot see the mahogany body because of the paint, but here's the routing for the pickups going to the back of the electronics. In the official specs, Gibson are listing the Franklin Titebond 50 glue, and you can see that they've used a lot to get a solid connection between the body and the neck. Interesting choice of pickups. Lzzy went with the 57 Classic in the neck position, and you can see this one was made on the 25th of September 2014. It has the patent apply for or PAF sticker. This cap has never been removed. Gavit conductor wire connecting it to the electronics. For the bridge position, she went with the 57 Plus Classic. This one was made a day later than the neck, 26th September 2014. As far as I know, these are Aunico tube pickups. They don't measure that hot, but especially the 57 Plus sounds hot. They're a bit fizzy, but they cut through the mix like crazy. Both pickups have gold covers. This is not something unique for Gibson, but what's unique for the Lzzy Hale signature are those gold rings. It is just a metal piece that sits on top of a regular white slanted pickup ring. Both of them are held in place by the height adjustment screw. Let me show you the bridge pickup ring as well. You have a white slanted regular plastic pickup ring, and on top is that metal gold plated one held in place by the height adjustment screw. Here's another look at the pickup rings and the metal plates on top of them. The previous owner had swapped them with black plastic pickup rings. I reverted them back. A look under the gold single ply pick guard. Of course, this is a front routed guitar, so the three-way switch sits here. Also, the routing from the electronics goes to the pickups from this cavity. Personally, I am a fan of front routed Explorers. I think they look good with the pick guard. Of course, the three-way switch needs to be L-shaped because the cavity is a bit shallow. Here's a look at that unique, gorgeous golden pick guard. It's made out of single ply plastic piece. If they made it out of metal like the pickup rings, it would probably interfere with the pickups and leave fingerprint marks. If it was metal, it would probably scratch a lot too. This one is in perfect condition because the previous owner of this guitar had it swapped with a white one. I didn't like the look of it on this particular guitar, even with the black pickup rings, but still, you know, you're losing a lot of the uniqueness of this guitar if you make it like this. Maybe with a black pick guard, probably yes, but like this I'm not a fan. Another thing, here under the pick guard you can also see the Alpine White original color contrasting with the aged yellow one from the Nitro. The pick guard aligns perfectly with 8 holes held in place by 8 screws. The usual control scheme for an Explorer: we have a 3-way pickup switch, then we have volume for the neck, volume for the bridge, and a master tone. Gold speed knobs for the stock version, unlike Lzzy's prototype. I think these are better fit though. Damn, I get thirsty every time I look at it. It's one hell of a guitar. Get it? Hell. No? You get it, right? Hell. No? Okay, please subscribe. Also, why is this drink acid piss colored? And why the hell are my hands shaking? Let's measure exactly how hot these are, starting with the bridge position, the 57 Classic Plus at 781 k ohms. Switching over to the neck, a little bit hotter at 785 k ohms. And the middle position, 391. And just to confirm that this is the bridge pickup volume, there we go, zeroes it out. You gotta know something about measuring pickups. Even though I've reviewed an Edwards recently that had 17 k ohms at the bridge position, it didn't sound any hotter or tighter than this one that is at 780. It depends on the magnets used and of course some other factors. A bit of an issue that I have with this particular set of pickups is that the 57 Classic in the neck position has considerably higher output through the clean channel compared to the 57 Classic Plus. An interesting and somewhat unique choice of hardware for the bridge and the tailpiece. We got Tone Pro and they're both locking. It's not often that you see locking bridges and tailpieces on Gibsons. You see them mostly on ESP, but here it is. The Tone Pro locks in place through those Allen bolts. Feels pretty substantial, has a nice weight to it, 54 grams. Both the bridge and the tailpiece are made by a special alloy called Zamac. The tailpiece as well. Let's take it out of its place. As you can see, the Tone Pro logo on the bottom and locks with the Allen bolts in place. It's substantial as well, 75 grams. Both the bridge and the tailpiece are locked in place using a 1.5mm Allen bolt. The bridge is adjusted by a thumb wheel, but I have a bit of a complaint. Maybe this is an early locking model by Tone Pro, or I don't know, they make them special for Gibson, but the positioning of the Allen bolts is a bit awkward. If you have the strings, if you have the tailpiece in place, it's a bit hard to access. ESP makes them a bit to the side here where I'm pointing, but I guess it's okay, you can still adjust it. It's just that not that convenient as the tailpiece. You can see it's pointing outwards and easier to adjust. Also, you can notice something specific for gold hardware. In time it wears out and it gets this white gold color. Originally the tailpiece was bolted all the way down from the factory, and you can see how it pressed against the finish. I've raised them a bit to make the strings slinkier, so it's noticeable. See, it's not that bad. I might have exaggerated, but it's still at a bit of an angle. But the good thing about locking hardware, you see the tailpiece is not locked in place, but the bridge is. Once in place, it doesn't move, and I can turn the guitar over. It's not gonna fall. It's gonna retain the setup, you know, it's not gonna move up or down. The thumb wheels are not gonna rotate. And combined with the locking tuners, it's pretty easy to restring and keep the setup. I'm a huge fan of locking hardware in the ESP guitars, and honestly I didn't expect the Lzzy Hale to have it, and also Gibson claims that it improves sustain. Before I move on to the neck, let's have a look at this gorgeous Explorer body, starting with the 7-ply binding, which resembles the Les Paul Custom as Lzzy mentioned. The binding makes it pretty much look like a white version of the Gibson Custom Explorer. However, there's a price for having a gorgeous Alpine White guitar. As Lzzy mentioned, it is a hard color to make for a couple of reasons, and usually white guitars have a lot of checking marks on some spots that there are stress, like the screws, the hardware and stuff. Of course, this is not typical only for white guitars. The Thunder Horse had checking marks on the same places as well. There's a slight bump here on the top, another one over here. And Explorer guitars usually get bumped a lot on the edges, but this one seems to be in a good condition. Also, the good thing about this particular guitar, it hasn't aged that much. You can see that only the headstock has yellowed a lot. It's again typical stuff for this model. It's hard to tell what to do with Alpine White Nitro guitars. Keep them in the case, keep them outside. It doesn't seem to matter, they get yellow. Another bump at the top horn, which has chipped the paint. This is the point of the guitar that sticks out the most other than the headstock. Some slight checking marks on the sides, little bumps. Overall, seems to be in good condition. Most of Alpine White guitars have checking marks near the neck joint where there's a lot of stress. You don't have to worry about that. That is not cracked wood, this is just cracked nitro finish. Also notice how over time the color of the body almost matches the color of the binding, which is cream-like. Like it or not, that's just how Alpine White Gibson guitars age. You can slow the process down, but eventually it's gonna get yellow, and I'm gonna demonstrate with another guitar in a second. Some more slight bumps and checking marks, you can see them better on camera, and the other side of the neck joint, again some checking marks and cracks on the finish. Again, the usual stuff, this guitar is in great condition. Let me give you a good example of how yellow could Alpine White get. This is my 2008 Alpine White Gibson Les Paul Custom, and you can clearly see the difference. This is supposed to be the same finish, but my Gibson has been through a lot, probably played in smoky bars and stuff, and you can see the checking marks near the neck joint as well. Same stuff, but look at the back. This has been a player's guitar, it has been played a lot live and on stage, and I have a video review for it, you can check it out if you want. Look at the other side of the neck joint. Again, this is not a crack in the wood or the fingerboard, it's just finish cracking. I've mentioned the fingerboard situation a couple of times in this video, but let me explain in further detail. In 2014, Gibson were struggling with the ebony material. I think initially Lzzy wanted ebony for this guitar. I think her custom shop prototype has ebony, even though it looks a bit brownish on video. I think it would have been too much of a hassle for Gibson to supply ebony for all of the guitars they wanted to make, so they went with the darkest possible rosewood. For the 2019 dark model, they even used rich light for the black guitar. For the Epiphone they went with ebony though, but again the darkest possible rosewood, and I think it looks amazing combined with the gold hardware and the aesthetic of this guitar. Don't get me wrong, I'm probably the biggest fan of the darkest possible ebony. I love it on my white Iron Cross, but I think for this guitar with the gold, with everything else, a little bit brown looks better. Anyway, we have a single piece mahogany neck bound with plecked frets and fret nips binding, and we got black side dot inlays. The binding has started to get a little bit yellow because this guitar is 10 years old. I'm surprised that they didn't go with the mother of pearl inlays. These are acrylic because they were going for the Gibson Les Paul custom look, but again, probably cheaper to go with acrylic, and it looks okay. I would prefer mother of pearl, but again, these are well chosen. They have nice pattern to them, except maybe these two, they're a bit too plain, but the last ones are okay. This is the original nut, and it's made out of material called Tectoid. It's pretty steep, weirdly cut, but seems to be okay. They couldn't use bone, they don't do that even for custom shop instruments. Tectoid is what they used before they went with Graphtec. Works good, seems to be cut right, and looks okay with the guitar. You have the Explorer shape of the headstock, and this is what the truss rod cavity looks like. The truss rod seems to be in good shape. The Gibson logo on this particular guitar is gold silkscreen. The newer model, the black one, has mother of pearl. I think the gold silkscreen looks good with the rest of the guitar, like these pearl buttons for the Grover locking tuners. They're just buttons. You got regular Grover mini automatics on the back. Here's what the truss rod cover looks like, a single ply white one with the gold hot press Lzzy Hale signature. It's held in place by two gold screws, and I prefer it over the gold one that she has on her guitar. The nut is 43mm or 1.69 inch wide. The 12th fret is 53.2mm or 2.09 inches wide. The first fret is 20.5mm thick or 0.8 inch. The 12th fret is 21.5mm or 0.84 inch thick. And here's what the neck profile looks like. It's pretty flat and thin, manages to stay thin throughout the entire length. Unlike the 2 inches of thickness for the Les Paul Custom, this is thinner. I imagine that Lzzy's prototype is a little bit thicker because it's a double bound body. Anyway, here's what the back of mine looks, some dings, and let me try and show you from another angle. Some checking marks, as I already mentioned, are typical for this kind of finish. Luckily, most of the checking marks on this particular Lzzy Hale example are on the back of the guitar, and you can barely see them from a certain angle. Here's what the electronic compartment looks like, the routing that goes to the front and to the pickups, and we got 3 500K Gibson branded pots and the ground wire. This guitar seems to be in stock condition. I don't think the pickups were swapped. And the only place that shows us the color of the mahogany body. And this is the cover for the electronics compartment, 1-ply plastic, and still has the protective film over it. I'm not gonna peel this off, I'm gonna leave the pleasure to the next owner that gets this guitar. As I said, it is in great condition. Original strap button made out of brass, the 1.4 output jack with the gold plating, and the rectangular cover for it. The other strap button is positioned here as on most Gibson Explorers, and the checking mark going from it. I told you that checking marks form usually on stress points or around them. Which makes me a bit curious, where did these checking marks start from? Here's a look at the back of the neck, and you can see that it started to yellow a little bit more where it was in contact with the player's finger. Or as I like to call it, the history of the previous owner. You can see the boxes that he preferred to play in. Usually I play in the first positions. This has been played all over the neck, which again confirms that it's a comfortable thin neck even in the higher positions. A little bit of a ding here, you can barely feel it, so it's not a problem. Back at the headstock, barely visible, we have 2014 model pressed on it and some checking marks from the screws of the Grover tuners. And here an interesting situation with the serial number. We have 14 serial number, but this is a demo guitar, it's an early model. The year on the newer models are indicated by the numbers on the first and the fourth position. This one, the old style, 14 means 2014, and then you have the month. As I already mentioned, this is an early model, which is also indicated by the demo pressed into the headstock, meaning that this guitar was probably used for guitar shows to demonstrate the new model of Lzzy Hale signature. Somebody probably first bought it from a guitar expo or some show. There's a ding on the front of the headstock, another one here, and this is usual for Explorer guitars. The headstock and the top horn tend to stick out more and they get banged. Here's the back of the Grover Rotomatic Mini tuners, 18:1 ratio. These are your regular mini Rotomatics. They just have these beautiful like pearl buttons to them. I really like the 8-in-1 tool by Music Nomads because I usually tighten the tuners before putting the strings on, and I can do it with this side of the tool. I can tighten the screws, I can tighten the output jack. I took one of the Grovers to demonstrate to you. PW on the back side of it. Here's the wheel that locks the Grover logo and the beautiful pearl button. The entire construction weighs 34 grams. Let me demonstrate another benefit of these beautiful small buttons. You see, these are the big Grover buttons, the beans. The previous owner had them here on the Grovers, and he had the black truss rod cover, and the whole guitar looked awful with them. But here's the thing, the normal button, this one that Lzzy uses, almost a gram. Now check out the big beans, 13, and multiply this by 6 and you get a considerable weight on your headstock. So these are weight saving as well. Usually most guitars come with 1046 strings from the factory. The Lzzy Hale has 946 listed in the specs, so I'm gonna use my preferable strings, the Elixir NanoWeb 946. Even though I intend to sell this guitar, I like it and I'm gonna put the most comfortable for me strings to enjoy it while it's here. They are coated and long life too. Right before putting on the new strings, I like to apply the Tune It paste on the nut. It gets better spread when the string is tuning in the beginning, and here on the saddles of the bridge. It is a pleasure to restring this guitar using the locking bridge, tailpiece and the Grover locking Rotomatics. You just put the string through the tuner, the hole should be facing the bridge, then you lock the tuner from the back, just tighten the string a little bit, lock it from the back and then rotate at approximately 90 degrees. Don't tighten the string too much just yet, you're not gonna tune it. It is an extremely lightweight guitar, meaning for its size, at 3,826 grams or 8.43 pounds. I mean, it's a huge chunk of mahogany. It's not as thick as a Les Paul Custom, but a Les Paul Custom usually weighs around 4,500 to 5,000. Just a typical Gibson Explorer case. I would have liked the Hailstorm logo or a little bit different like the M4 Sherman. You got 1, 2, 3 latches and the sturdy leather handle. It has been worn a little bit, but I prefer the case to be worn instead of the guitar. The protective yellow hard tubing is still in place, white stitching and the Gibson USA logo in gold. Here's what the inside of the case looks like. Still smells like vanilla, like this typical Gibson smell. It's shaped for the Explorer and it has this compartment which opens with this leather handle with the Gibson logo. Not much case candy inside. The case itself was made in Canada. As I said, not exactly Christmas in here. We have the Gibson warranty, but since this is a demo model, I guess it's normal. Even later models don't have much more than this. We have the certificate of authenticity and some, what was the name of this? Desiccant bag and the truss rod adjustment tool. Here's the rest of the case. do I think about the Lzzy Hale Explorer? Well, I gotta say, it's even better than I expected. I knew it was gorgeous, but it looks even better in person. Honestly, other than the case and the scarce case candy, there's nothing much I can complain about. I like the look, I like the smell, I like the sound, I like the feel of it. I think Lzzy has achieved a perfect balance of innovating and keeping it traditional. This guitar looks like nothing else, but at the same time it looks like a traditional Gibson Explorer. This guitar brings me one step closer to completing the Holy Trinity, the Thunder Horse, the Lzzy Hale, the Golden Axe. Mentioning the Thunder Horse, I think the Lzzy Hale is a little bit better made than it. They feel similar, and yet the Lzzy Hale feels just that little bit more special. Same as the Thunder Horse, it is a signature guitar, but a lot of people would like it just for the aesthetics. Take me for example, I'm not a fan of Hailstorm, but I love this guitar, and I got to listen to some of their music, and I gotta say it's pretty good. Last but not least, we gotta talk price. It's not a cheap guitar, it never was, and it's gonna get more expensive. Finding a good example like this one is gonna get harder and harder.